Dear science, you really like to be mysterious, don't you? Let me tell you a story, an accidental story of how we actually proved that the Big Bang exists. But before that, we'll have to rewind quick. What is the Big Bang theory? What happened at the start of the universe? So basically, approximately 13.8 billion years before, there was nothing, and then there was something. In 10 raised to minus 32 seconds, that is so much less than a millisecond, something emerged from nothing. And that something was our universe. It was space itself. It was the size of a peach, and then it became the size of a football. This is all below 1 second, by the way. There were gluons and quarks. Quarks are the basics of protons and neutrons. Protons and neutrons are made of quarks. And the gluons and quarks were annihilating each other because they were of opposite forces. The universe was so incredibly hot that, E is equal to mc square, energy is equal to mass into the speed of light square, was actually true because energy and mass were the same thing. It was quadruple degrees Celsius. It was extremely hot. All of the forces were united because everything was so intense. And all of this is, we have not reached the 1 second mark yet. Practically the same thing. And we have to imagine this because this is not something that the human brain can grasp, but there was truly nothing. There was not even space. Space in itself was expanding. Space in itself was being created, along with all of the energy and matter that was being created. So that's something that we have a very hard idea wrapping our head around, but that's what was happening. Then we can go, this is known as the Quark Era, by the way, because everything was just quarks and gluons. Not even protons and neutrons were formed yet. That is way in the future. Now we have reached at 10 raised to minus 19 seconds, still not to a second. And now we have defined our 4 forces, main forces: electromagnetic force, strong nuclear force, weak nuclear force, and the gravitational force. And now the universe has started to expand billions of kilometers in such a short amount of time. Now, thoda far, the universe is cooling down because of the expansion. And now all of the quarks are coming together. And some variety and some combination of quarks are more stable than the others. And some combinations have formed protons and have formed neutrons. And then there are electrons. And all of this is being formed right now. So the universe is cooling down, but it is still at more than 3000 degrees Kelvin, which is a lot. So we are now, right now, entering the nucleosynthesis era. Right now we were in the Quark Era, but 1 second has passed since the universe has begun. And the universe is approximately 100 billion kilometers right now. Wow, just imagine that. Right now, the universe has cooled down enough to form the first hydrogen molecules, which are very basic, which is just 1 proton and 1 neutron, or 1 proton and 1 electron. But right now, the universe is still 10 billion degrees Celsius. It's all hazy. It's all plasma. See, now this is where the fun stuff has started to happen. Because now 1 second has passed, this is going to continue for the next thousands of years. For the next thousands of years, they're going to go through the opaque era. This started approximately 200 seconds after the Big Bang. There was the dark age. The opaque era was also the dark age because there were no stars. Visible rays could not pass through the hydrogen because they were constantly colliding with the electrons and protons and neutrons that were being formed. So light was traveling. It was just being obstructed. So it was there like hundreds of light bulbs, but so much fog. And that's why you can't see anything. Everything was opaque. And for the next millions of years, this opaque era was going to continue. The hydrogen molecules will take that much time to clump together, to form, gravitize together and form stars. And then after stars, planets and everything. Approximately, now this is where the fun part begins actually. This is when we realized that something was happening. This theory was put forward by Robert Dick and someone else, I believe. I'll leave their name in the description. They are from Princeton University. And the theory was that in the opaque era, approximately 400,000 years after the Big Bang, when everything was so plasma-like that visible light could not pass through and everything was foggy. But when hydrogen and hydrogen started to form, when protons and electrons came together, protons, neutrons, and electrons started to form atoms, the transparent era of our universe began. That is, that space became transparent. Electromagnetic radiation could travel through all of these atoms instead of just, ricocheting back. And at that moment, at the moment when, the atoms, the universe became transparent and the atoms formed, there was like one last bright explosion of light of all of the plasma. And that explosion of light that was like one last hurrah for all of the plasma, because after that, the atoms were formed, right? And that explosion of light is still there today. The fossil of that explosion is the CMB, which is the cosmic microwave background radiation. And that is what we discovered. So the story is very funny, actually. Let's go there. So what happened was that Robert and Arnold were tasked with, they had to use an analog satellite to capture the brightness of the sky, true brightness of the night sky. And whatever they had theorized, they were getting more pairs of radiation than expected all the time. And their solution to that was perhaps because there are so many pigeons around in the area, that is because the radiation is getting disturbed and we are getting false readings. So they even had pigeons to be like, the pigeons who were killed, many pigeons were killed, many were just like shooed off, and it was a whole thing because the pigeons were disturbing the calculations, they were disturbing the readings. But every time they pointed their analog satellite in any blank space in the entire night sky, they always got a basic static. And it was very irritating, and we did not know what that was. And in the end, after eliminating all of the possibilities, they talked to Robert Dick about it and everyone else. And then they discovered that this is the painting of the universe. This is the proof that the Big Bang occurred. Because if the Big Bang did occur, the consequences would lead to a constant radiation, which is going to be known as the cosmic microwave background radiation. Now, when this radiation was released, before it was released also, during it was released, and after it was released, the universe has been expanding. We also know that when the universe expands, light's wavelength also expands, which means that it redshifts. I talked about this in our last video. And so initially, it may have been in the visible spectrum along the range scale. And eventually, in the past 13 billion years, it has just been redshifting into infrared, into microwave, and right now it's at the microwave radiation spectrum. Its thermal body activity, thermal graph matches exactly with a thermal graph of something which is approximately 2.7 Kelvin above absolute zero. So that's a very funny story of how we discovered and proved the Big Bang with just a picture of the cosmic microwave background radiation. And that just helps us to understand how our universe started. And this is our best theory to prove it. I hope this was an interesting video for you to watch. It was very interesting for me to make. And talk to you later, dear science. I love you, and I love how mysterious you are.